talk a little bit more about mobile development. And one of the questions that seems prevalent from our side, from the development side, is you are now faced, you've been asked from the business side and now from your CIO down, to develop a mobile app. But your team has no experience. So how do you get your team together? You want to keep your team, you don't want to do a whole bunch of external hiring. How do you get them up and running so that you can execute on their plan?
Okay, well, I mean, first thing I would do is define what it is to get the company into the mobile space. And let's take the iPhone, for example. I mean, it's, right now, to me, it's the most prevalent device for doing custom applications. Depending on what your current team's skill sets are, assuming that you have some people that have worked in some lower level languages, something like C, C++, or Java. Certainly start with folks that have that kind of experience. One of the major differences in doing mobile development, as opposed to what have become the more traditional languages of today, is having to go back and worry about things like memory management and the footprint of the application, given that you're running on a much smaller device with much more restrictive guidelines when it comes to memory management and the memory that you have available to you. It's definitely simplifying the problem going with a single device like that, and we could get into the complexities of developing for the numerous devices out there. We're actually working on something now where we're having to tackle that, in that you have to worry about all the different screen resolutions and everything else. That aside, focusing in on iPhone development, I'd certainly start with that. There's a bunch of good Objective-C books out there, so I would kind of groom the team internally, see who kind of has an understanding of that, is leaning toward that, or is leaning toward that. I found a lot of developers are doing it on the side, and so you might be kind of shocked to find that you have one or two closet iPhone developers already in house.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that someone certainly can pick up on their own if they have the kind of the drive to do that. So I guess in short, that's where I would start. Again, looking for developers that have some lower level, what I would call lower level experience with like a language like C or C++.
And also defining what your real needs are.
Right.
Absolutely, starting there from a business perspective.
Right,
I mean,
right.
There's again. The iPhone is just one of the devices out there, and just using that as an example.
And it may not be, the iPhone may not be the right solution for whatever application your CIO has asked you to develop.
Right. So we've actually we're assuming right now that you've figured out what your strategy is.
Right. Yeah.
We sort of skip that middle section, which is very, very important, though.
Absolutely,
because
we've
defined.
done stuff that's still SMS based, and so that there are solutions out there that require nothing more than SMS, and just being able to to define that obviously up front, because they're text-based applications are much simpler, and on the back end the receiving application of those text messages could be written in anything. It could be .NET, could be Java, could leverage your the existing skill sets that you have in house with just putting that that text layer on top, if you will.
Right.
And there are many canned solutions out there for doing applications that are SMS based. But again, that's the kind of old school.
But I think what I'm hearing sort of across the board is, one, it's defining what you need, and that it doesn't always need to be this huge solution, that there are ways to step into the mobile space depending on what you are trying to achieve.
Absolutely.
So it's not something that you need to be scared about, and it sounds like you can get your team up and running if you have sort of the core team who has some of these skill sets that you've already talked about.
Yes, and back to
training.
And back to defining the problem. I mean, let's stick with the iPhone, for example. There's not necessarily a need to develop a custom iPhone application. The first thing that we actually launched prior to the iPhone SDK being available, which was a couple of years ago, was just a mobile Safari optimized version of an application a web application that we had built for Intuit. And even to date, the users are still satisfied with it. They've yet to actually build a real iPhone application on top of it. So again, we were just leveraging the standard Java skills that we had in house. We were the iPhone, the jailbroken iPhones people were developing for, but this was before there were really any iPhone apps out there. And again, even today with how many hundreds of thousands of iPhone applications that are available, people are still using the mobile Safari optimized version, which was at the end of the day just a bunch of CSS stylings sitting on top of standard web pages. So.
And just to sort of to close out on our short segment, if I was a developer and I wanted to get started, are there any websites I should go to? Anything that you could recommend to point me in a direction to learn?
Yes, but I don't have the URLs
Okay.
or books memorized that we could, so we actually have some of them back in the other room there.
Well, we'll post them on the blog. How's that?
That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I could get those to you.
Super. Well, thank you so much for your time. We realized it was sort of short notice, but it was great, really great information that you're able to give us.
I appreciate the time too. Thanks.
Thanks.